Welcome to Just Relationships, the show that offers you concrete ways to make your relationships better. Whether it's your boss, your spouse, your children, or your friends, the quality of your relationships in life directly affects how you feel about yourself and the success you achieve. Your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer, a psychotherapist, telecoach, author, and seminar leader, will interview top experts to help you learn to manage this essential part of your life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer.
Greetings to you. Do you ever get stage fright? Do you get frightened when you have to talk to people who might judge you? And whether it's wondering about how to behave on a first date or a job interview or whatever it is, I am very, very happy to introduce to you Mimi Donaldson, who is a superstar in the speaking business. She actually teaches people how to give very high-level, funny, professional speeches. But today for us on Just Relationships, she is going to use all of that knowledge to help us with communication, how we communicate, and also how we can de-stress. Because Mimi has the whole thing covered, and she has written has the whole thing covered, and she has written many books and around communication and stress management. So welcome, Mimi. I already made you laugh.
Thank you so much. Yes, you did.
Yes. So, it's a very, very broad question, and tell us the name of your latest book.
The one that I speak on now, which helps people with their speeches when they're asked the question, "What do you do?" and they have to describe their business. So
right.
It's very helpful for business owners. But also, if you want a promotion and you want something different, when somebody says, "What do you want?" your first word can't be or well. It's got to be very clear. So it helps you with your pitch, whatever you're pitching, and that's why it's called Pitch Perfect, Speak to Grow Your Business in 7 Simple Steps.
Yes, and again, since we have a general audience, I think it's really a matter of pitching yourself. Aren't we, in many ways, either selling ourselves or selling our ideas?
Well, yeah, and the thing to remember that makes communication hard, otherwise it would be really easy, is that not everybody is just like you. See, if everybody was just like us and had our values and liked to be talked to the same way we like to talk, it would be simple.
Yes.
But what happens is you must meet people where they are. For instance, if you're a person who really loves a big, long story, but the person you're talking to wants the bottom line, then it's a matter of, do you want the person to give you what you want? Then you have to give them what they want. So you have to meet people where they are. It's a big life lesson I'm learning lately.
Yes, meet people where they are.
Yes.
And as we call it, the platinum rule instead of the golden rule.
Oh, that's great. What is it?
Well, treat others as they want to be treated.
That's lovely. I did not know about that. Is that yours?
Oh, no. It's, I don't remember the name of the person who coined it, but yes. So what you're talking about, really, Mimi, is flexing, is knowing how to flex to other people.
Yeah, and even flexing is a value that a lot of people don't value.
Wow, I'm surprised to hear that.
Oh, it's true. I started out in human resources, and I was a stand-up trainer, training managers how to manage. Well, back in those days, which were in the 80s, which I know some of your listeners weren't even born, in the early 80s, but the big guys at the top and the second level and the third level of management were all men. And it was not a big value to flex. they wanted you to listen to them the way and understand what they said the way they said it.
Yes.
And so when the workplace started changing and lots of women came in, I actually taught a course, a 3-hour session called feedback, giving feedback. And even though it's an ugly word, that's what women require and employees require generally. But that's what managers didn't have back then. And they said to me, well, when you don't hear from me, then you know you're doing fine.
Yes, isn't that something? So we get either no feedback or negative feedback. And I do management training as well, and and that is what makes managers shake in their boots, because if they give corrective feedback, the other person can be so offended and they can make instant enemies, and
right.
And if they give, they don't know how to give positive feedback for the most part, because that's part of the taken for granted reality.
Well, that's how it used to be. Mm-hmm. Now, with the millennials in the workplace, they require a lot of praise. Yes. I mean, people have changed. And a lot of us baby boomers aren't in the workplace anymore, but lots of us still are. And people have had to learn to give a lot of feedback to the millennials, especially praise. Mm. And that's no kidding. And even the millennials that I have as friends and clients and people I know say, yep, that's right. They're not embarrassed about that at all. So it's really changed a lot from give them praise, they want a raise. That's what my guys used to tell me. Give them praise, they want a raise. You know, whoa. But to now, you have to give them praise to keep them around, otherwise they'll get another job somewhere else.
Right, and I guess people would say, oh, well, I'd rather have a raise than praise, but really, ideally, people can have both?
Well, the big secret is that, and I never tell anybody this either, is that when you love what you do, it's not about the money. Mm-hmm. And some people are in their job for their self-esteem or for the social life in the workplace, and it's not about the money. But we can't really tell people that, because work deserves to be paid.
Yes.
But the truth is, people don't leave jobs to have more money. Mm-hmm. They leave jobs when the boss is really terrible.
Yeah, that's so right. And studies have shown that it is the immediate supervisor who is the major reason why someone would leave a job.
Yes, that's true.
And you know, Mimi, when we talk about the millennials, and I see how children are raised today, where everything that they do is wonderful. And,
I know.
Yeah, and of course the old joke about you get a trophy just for showing up. And and I think there's something to the idea of valuing everyone to participate, and that all of that. And at the same time, you're right, one becomes dependent upon that. So for, say, a baby boomer to switcheroo and to try to give praise all the time, that must be a real stretch.
Well, I think it is, and you can give feedback, but you have to start it with a positive.
Right.
So there's a way, the old way we used to say is sandwich way or whatever it was. So the bread, give something positive, then say the bad news, then end with some hopeful statement. Even to the point where the people in my workplace used to think that the ball's in your court now, it's up to you. That was a positive statement.
Yes.
That's positive. It's giving the power back. And so you can make sure that you do that. The millennials were given a medal for showing up. Everybody got one.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal now that they learn how to win and they learn how to lose.
Right.
Because that's what the world is. And when I wrote the book Negotiating for Dummies, you learn that in a negotiation, somebody gets more of what they want than the other person. That's just how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You got to make sure you have enough in the deal to satisfy you, but one person's going to get more of what they want than the other person. Yeah.
Okay. I had understood that a good negotiation means that each person thinks they got the better over the other one.
No, it's actually, that was true.
Yeah.
Until the two guys wrote the book Win-Win Negotiating.
Okay.
When they wrote the book about win-win, and I'm not sure of the book. It's an older book, and it was written before, obviously, the 90s, because I wrote my book in 96. But these guys, one of them, I can't remember their names now, but I caught one at dinner, his kid. I said, "Is your dad there?" And yeah. And I said, on the back of your book, because speakers can sort of contact each other all over the country. And I said, on the back of your book, you said that win-win means that each partner, each person who's in the negotiation gets enough of what they want so they won't renege on the deal.
Right.
Is that as bloodless as it is? And he said, yes. And I said, so this whole concept of win-win, everybody's happy. He said, no, that's not true. And I have a feeling that, and I didn't tell him that because I didn't want him to have any more prejudices than he already had, if he had any. But I think it's a female thing. I think when females came into the workplace, that's when this whole win-win thing started. And we just have to feel so good about it. Well, no, we actually don't. All it means is that, does the other person have enough so they won't renege on the deal?
Wow.
And that's called win-win.
Well, that's very interesting, Mimi.
Isn't it?
Yes, each gets enough so they don't of what they want, so they don't renege on the deal. And there's another book with the title of How Much Is Enough? And what is enough, right? How much is enough? And
that's interesting.
I call it the disease of more.
That's a good concept to know.
Yes, when is enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's and I'd like to go back to the idea of giving corrective with positive feedback, if you will, because I think that it's number one important to be very sincere in your praise.
It is. But you have to find something good.
Oh, yes, and I believe that you can.
When they first come in. Okay, so when they first come in, the corrective discussion starts out with something positive or an observation, a real truth that you've noticed. And you're pretty sure they can get this under control, but I've noticed that you've been late two times this week. What's going on? And then you give them a chance to respond, because they might respond with something you don't know, and then you don't go through the discussion.
Right. So you almost put what you've noticed, and then you open it up, and you're questioning. You're questioning what's going on. Right. Yes. Yeah. You want to know the whole story of a horrible thing happened in the workplace. We learned this the hard way. This guy was all set to discipline his employee, and then he found out the employee had a death in the family, very close death. Oh, my. Yes.
Did not know that.
Right, exactly.
So you've got to find out before you start imposing consequences and your agenda.
And I want to expand this, Mimi Donaldson. Mimi Donaldson is the author of Pitch Perfect and Bless This Stress. Many other books. Co-author Bless This Stress. It means
bless
you're
your stress,
still,
yeah.
yes, bless your stress. It means you're still alive. And necessary roughness, new rules for the contact sport of life. So, my goodness, you've written so extensively.
Thank you.
Yes, so to expand to the general, I have found it with my employees where I've made the mistake and I've felt so righteous and said something to them without finding out the situation, and now I always lead what happened.
Exactly. And in personal relationships, it's the same thing. I had a therapist once who told me assuming is not respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Asking questions, curiosity is respectful.
Right.
So instead of jumping on your partner or somebody that you think has done something terribly wrong to you or just a little wrong thing, ask questions first. Find out if actually what happened. What did they do? Like, what were they thinking?
Right. What were they thinking without the kind of like a line? Or what were you thinking? You know,
exactly.
Really, it must be curious. What were you thinking? And I hate that old phrase that managers use. Help me understand.
Ew.
You know, some of these lines can be overused.
Yeah, that can grate.
So, yeah.
If they're overused.
Yeah, it really, really has to be sincere. So, okay, going back, let's just say to millennials, what I've observed and what's your take, and you hear them out, and then I imagine you would, or I would, and you would, I know, paraphrase them, and so I heard you saying... And,
yeah. That's always good.
Right. And then you would ask what? Would you ask any more questions?
Well, if they, you ask what was going on or what were you thinking, and it could be either a problem thing or a real curiosity. But even if you think you know, you need to still ask.
Right.
Is there anything I need to know about that situation? You might find out amazing stuff about somebody else.
I like that question.
Or, in the case of one manager, if he hadn't asked the question, he wouldn't have realized he's talking to the wrong person.
Huh.
It wasn't even the right person.
Oh, my word.
I know. He had mixed up the files on his desk, and he grabbed for something, and the guy was late, and he was late, and then he just opens it up with, I noticed it, and he says, what was going on? And the guy goes, oh, well, that's not my area. I'm not in that department.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Boy.
Oh, boy. So it can save you a ton of time and trouble if you check on your facts.
And yes, that's a real gaffe. And I'm thinking about how many people, since they don't give positive feedback generally, they only give it when they are about to give some sort of corrective feedback. And now the person is waiting for the but.
Right.
Right. So, go ahead.
When I teach the positive feedback module, I always say, when you're giving positive feedback, just keep it to one thing.
Yes.
Don't say, you were on time all week. Now, if you could just get your numbers to be more accurate. No. Shh. Be quiet. Save that for another conversation.
One item at a time.
Exactly.
So important. Don't throw the kitchen sink at them. So important. Now, tell me, Mimi Donaldson, what you mean by necessary roughness.
Oh, that's such a cool concept. Well, that whole book was written. That's my 2010 book. Yeah, that's the 2010. So that book was written when I was an absolute football fanatic. And I was teaching managers in the workplace. And then on the weekends, I was watching football all day. And I was taking notes in the back of my day timer on the plays on the football things, and it was all leadership lessons and strategy and focus. It was all the stuff that I was teaching in the classroom to managers. And I thought, gosh, there's a real parallel here. And then, of course, Peyton Manning was my favorite quarterback back then because he was like a CEO, and he would give people positive feedback on the bench, and he was a real team guy, and he was just... So I dedicated the book to him and my mom, who shared a birthday with Peyton Manning. So I actually went to Indianapolis. He was with the Colts at that time, and I actually gave him a book and the coach a book of the team, and it was just really great. I was on a tour, a radio, TV kind of book tour in 2010. But the reason I named it Necessary Roughness is it's an advanced course for women in assertiveness. In other words, in the 80s, I taught how to speak up for yourself and learn how to say no and learn how to toot your own horn. Those were lessons of the 80s and 90s. In the 2000s, women have pretty much learned how to speak up for themselves and say no. Most women in the workplace, that wasn't the immediate need. But the immediate need was they were starting businesses in droves, and they need to be able to get their knuckles in the dirt, as the football players do, and not be liked, to risk not being liked. And so they don't, in the football, you don't get the penalty for necessary roughness. Everyone expects necessary. You get the penalty in football for unnecessary roughness. And unnecessary roughness means it's a little too rough. I mean, if you are attacking the quarterback as he's doing his quarterbacking thing, there's a certain way you hit him that's unnecessarily rough, and you will get a penalty for that. So there's all kinds of penalties. It's a lot of rules in football, which was fascinating to me. And I thought, okay, that's what women have to learn, is that if you're going to be in this life right now where you want to be equal and, you want to be taken seriously, you have to not be afraid to get a little rough. Necessary roughness.
Right.
So you need to be able to say no without giving a reason, to be able to not backpedal when you say no. No, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
No, that's not something I'm going to do. And just without a reason. We used to need a reason. Oh, well, the reason I don't want to do that is that you don't need a reason. So there were some lessons that just paralleled, and my whole book is all football lesson, life lesson, football lesson, life lesson. And it was just, it was fun to write. It was actually the most fun book I've ever written. Because I just watched football the whole time and took notes.
Yes, wonderful. So I really like the idea of necessary roughness versus unnecessary roughness.
Yes, and necessary roughness, new rules for the contact sport of life. So my theory is that life is like sports. Life is a contact sport. And so there are certain times where you have to get your knuckles in the dirt and sort of get dirty a little bit. And I don't mean doing anything that's against your ethics, but to be able to, like a quarterback does. He throws an interception, which is really bad because you mistakenly throw it to the other guy on the other team. It's really bad. So, but you can throw two of those in a row, and you got to shake it off, and then you can throw a touchdown the next throw. So it's all about shaking it off, and women tend to carry things into the next day,
right,
and the next week. And the compliment in sports, females as well, the compliments are, short memory. She has a short memory. In other words, you can just fail, fall on your face, but then you just get up and do it again. Just do it again. Just shake it off. Each moment is a new moment of now. And so you don't have to drag the failure. That's how, and football players to me were just the epitome of shaking off the bad play and going again. That was just, I was so excited by that concept. Yes. Because I see the opposite in real life.
So it's a valuable thing to be most valuable player. The idea is it's good to have a short memory.
Oh, yeah. You've got to shake off the play and come back. Because when the whistle blows, the play is over. And that was really the first theme that I got in my head that, wow, this could be a book.
Wow.
Because when the whistle blows, the play is over was my first football lesson when my boyfriend was teaching me how to watch football. And I was in my 20s. And he was, he looked at me and he said, when the whistle blows, the play is over. Right. And I was like, oh, that was a really new concept for me.
Yes.
Because I had never played competitive sports. I didn't know about the whistles. Now, you talk to millennials, most of them have played sports, most women. And all the CEOs, the research shows that women who start their own business or who get to be CEOs of companies, the one thing they have in common is that they played competitive sports.
Very helpful.
I have a feeling that it's because they learned when the whistle blows, the play is over.
Right.
That's my theory.
I do think that if you use the sports metaphor, and in this case, it's not even a metaphor. Actually, playing sports, you're used to that roughness. You're used to going for the team and not taking it personally, and to be able to be a valuable player for the team rather than just for oneself. So I think that team sports makes a very important contribution.
I do too. I'm just sorry they didn't have it for girls when I was growing up.
Me too. I know. And to this day, and I'm so glad you talk about this, Mimi, because studies have shown that girls who play sports or are active in sports are more successful in life.
That's right.
And I want everyone to know that I am interviewing Mimi Donaldson, who is an expert on communication and professional speaking and de-stressing yourself. And is it MimiDonaldson.com to get in touch with you? MimiDonaldson.com.
Yes, thank you.
And this is Dr. Duffy Spencer saying goodbye for now and wishing you great relationships.